show from your local news leader.
Welcome back. When all the things are changing in our lives, we tend to want to hold on to the past or hurry up to get to the next stage.
So much so that we can end up missing the present. And that's what Kim Greenlee of the Champaign Counseling Group is here to tell us about now.
Good morning, Kim.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So we're talking mindfulness today, but this is through life's changes. So talk about that.
Yeah, so when life is changing, a lot of times if life changes can be things that we want to happen, that we choose to make a change in our life, or things that we don't want to happen. And so sometimes we tend to resist that change, hold on to the past, hold on to how it was, hold on to how it was comfortable, or we want to hurry up to get to the conclusion, this mythical ending where everything works out and everything's great.
Yeah.
And we end up missing out a lot along the way when we are trying to force ourselves into the past or the future.
So what is a life change? How do you know if your life is changing?
It can be anything from a change in relationship status, you know, an end of a relationship or the start of a relationship. It can be going back to school, change of a job. It can be accepting maybe a new reality. Maybe it's starting a family. Maybe it's accepting that starting a family isn't going to be as easy for you, or the way that you had planned it, or things like that. It can really be anything. Life is kind of always changing.
It really is. It really is. And mindfulness plays a big role.
Yeah.
So for people that aren't aware, what do you define as mindfulness?
So mindfulness is the idea of just being in the present moment, whether that's in the present moment of what is actually happening around you, so your sensory experience, whether it's focusing on your breathing, grounding yourself in the moment. I also like to think of mindfulness as thinking mindfully. So a lot of times our thoughts get into what I should have done in the past, or what I will do in the future if this and this and this happens. And we spend a lot of time there, but we can't do anything in the past or the future. We can only act in the present moment. So if we can get our thinking and our action into the present, we're going to be a lot more effective.
So that's how you kind of process it mentally. Are there any physical things that you can do to kind of help work through that?
Yeah, so just simply starting with noticing your breathing. Your breathing is happening here in the moment, or taking a minute to notice a lot of our sensory things. So taking a look around and noticing 5 things that you see, noticing what you can touch, some of that sensory stuff that we tend to weed out. And so anything like that where you're just noticing something going on around you. One of my favorite mindfulness quotes is, the minute you realize you're not being mindful, you're being mindful, because you've noticed your thinking and you've noticed how
you're thinking about thinking.
Yeah.
What?
Then you must be thinking if you're thinking about thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So something that I know people always talk about is they just hate change. I mean, just the idea of it. So how can you actually go about changing the way you feel about change?
Yeah, so one of the things is, one, notice that you're resisting the change. So if you find yourself trying to think of how I can get back to something that maybe isn't really an option, you know, how do I get back to this relationship that is gone? How do I get back to this? And when you notice you're doing that, really taking a moment to step back and accept the fact that it's happening, and recognize that resisting it is not preventing the change from happening.
Sure.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there are some physical things you can do to help. Breathing, you know, for example.
Yeah, breathing's good. Yeah.
How many times should we be breathing? Is there like a method to the madness?
Don't stop breathing.
Well,
don't stop.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, is there something we should be doing that could actually help us become more mindful of the moment when it comes to breathing?
Really, any kind of deep breaths. Usually if your exhale is longer than your inhale, that can be helpful. So sometimes that also helps you focus on counting rather than focusing on maybe what you're stressed about. So there's not really any set number. A good place to start is like taking 10 deep breaths.
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Keep breathing, okay?
Keep breathing.
Everyone
Just
should
keep
be
breathing.
at all times, okay?
And as always, where can people go to find more information?
You can contact our office at 217-203-2008 or our website, champaigncounseling.com.
Well, Kim, great job today.
Thank you. Thanks for
Welcome.
having me on.
Yes, of course. We'll be posting this segment later if you'd like to see more of Kim's tips. We'll be right back.